Okay, so yun. Good afternoon to all of us. So, um, last week, tinanong namin kung ano yung mga hindi nyo pa masyadong na gigets na topics and sabi nyo is medyo ano pa sa cash flow. So, yun. Napag-desisyonan namin kasi mapag-desisyon kami. Ayun, napag-desisyon na namin na balikan natin yung statement of cash flow. So, yun yung topic natin. So, ano nga ba ang statement of cash flows? The statement of cash flows provides information about the cash receipts and cash payments of an entity during the period. So, yung statement of cash flows, dito natin makikita yung cash receipt or yung inflows and cash payments or outflows. Yung makikita natin yung net increase or decrease in cash during the period. It also helps to project the future net cash flow of the entity sa future. So itong cash flow na to is meron siyang 3 activities, which is the cash flows from operating activities, cash flows from investing activities, and cash flows from financing activities. So next slide po. So first is the cash flow from operating activities. Sabi dyan, cash flows from operating activities are generally the cash effects of transactions and other events that enter into the determination of profit or loss. Itong cash flow from operating activities, ito yung merong effect sa profit or loss ng isang company. This cash flow can be presented using either the direct method or the indirect method. So, nakikita nyo dyan sa pangalawang bullet is all accounts under income statements, current assets and current liabilities. Dito sa sa operating activities, balik kasi ayan yung palatandaan ko para masabi ko na operating activities siya. Lahat ng accounts na nasa income statement, current assets and current liabilities. Kasi sila yung nakaka-affect ng profit or loss ng isang company. So, sabi din dyan, this cash flow can be presented using either the direct method or indirect method. So, ano nga ba ang direct method and indirect method? Next slide. First, yung direct method. The entity's net cash provided by or used in operating activities is obtained by adding the individual operating cash inflows and then subtracting the individual operating cash outflows. So, sa direct method, ina-add natin yung mga cash inflows, then sinosubtract naman yung sa cash outflows. Kung makikita nyo dyan sa example natin, yung statement of cash flow ng ABC Enterprises, yung sa operating activities nila, makikita nyo dyan yung cash collections from sales and accounts receivable. Diba ang sales, maaano mo yan sa profit or loss? Ibig sabihin, tama na yung isang palatanda natin kanina, nasa income statement siya. Income statement natin makikita yung sa sales. And yung accounts receivable is current asset. Next is the cash paid to suppliers. And next, cash paid on miscellaneous expenses. Cash paid for interest. Cash paid for income taxes. Kung mapapansin nyo sa direct method, dito natin maano yung cash payments or cash receive. Parang diretso na siya, parang kunwari, naka-receive ka ng, ayan, parang yan, cash collections from sales. Kapag direct method, ganyan usually yung makikita, cash collections or cash payments. So next slide sa And meron pala akong nakalimutan. Yung sa, masasabi natin siya na net cash provided kapag positive yung total. And kapag negative naman, it's net cash use. So next is the indirect method. The indirect method derives the net cash provided by or used in operating activities by adjusting profit for income and expense items not resulting from cash transactions. So kung kanina sa direct method, yun yung mga cash transactions, di ba? Yun yung mga kaka-receive ka ng cash, magbabayad ka ng cash. Sa indirect method naman, non-cash, not resulting from cash transactions. The adjustment begins with profit, followed by the addition of expenses and charges that did not entail cash payments. So ang makikita mo dito sa indirect method is ang first na nakalagay is yung net income. Then next yung mga adjustments niya. Yung mga non-cash transactions did not entail cash payments. Parang ito, yung depreciation. Diba kapag nag-ano tayo ng depreciation, debit depreciation expense and credit accumulated depreciation, walang cash na involved. And next is yung gain. So bakit nga ba natin ina-add yung depreciation and then yung gain naman is nileles. Ina-add natin, 'di ba sabi nga natin ang cash flow. So, yun nga yung sa expenses is ina-add natin. Sabi nga dito sa cash flows, dito natin malalaman yung payments, yung galaw ng cash mismo. Yung kung inflows and outflows ng cash. Ina-add natin ang depreciation kasi kapag ang expenses is overstated, yung profit is understated. And next naman is yung sa accounts receivable decrease, which is less din, and prepaid insurance decrease, and last is yung accounts payable increase. So makikita natin dito sa kabilang side yung increase-decrease ng current assets and current liabilities. So, ibig sabihin dito, kapag nag-increase yung current assets, ibig sabihin, ibabawas natin siya. And sa current liabilities naman, kapag nag-increase, idadagdag. Kapag nag-decrease naman ang current asset, is i-add. And kapag yung current liabilities naman yung nag-decrease, ibabawas. Parang, tandaan nyo na lang na kapag indirect method, magkakaroon din ng indirect effect kapag increase-decrease. So, the PAS Philippine Accounting Standard or PAS 7 are encouraged to report the cash flows from operating activities using the direct method. But the indirect method is acceptable. So, ang ating PAS 7, in-encourage niya na gamit yung mga entities na gumamit ng direct method para sa cash flows from operating activities. Pero hindi naman sinabi na hindi ay na-required. Ang sinabi lang is encourage. Kaya okay lang na kahit mag-indirect method sila. So, sa next slide, makikita natin yung mga major classes of operating cash flows using the direct method. Next slide po. Andyan yung sa cash inflows, receipts from sales of goods and performance of services. Next is the receipts from royalties, fees, commissions, and other revenue. And sa cash outflows naman is yung payments to suppliers of goods and services, payments to employees, payments for taxes, payment for interest expense, payments for other operating expenses. So, yun na yung last nung sa operating activities. Next naman is yung cash flow from investing activities. And for the next reporter, we have Miss Mary Ann Llamas.
Hello po. Ay, balik muna doon sa first. Mas naunang slide. Sa previous slide po. So, yan. So, ano makikita niyo sa picture? Ate halaman po. Hindi, joke lang. Kaya, nilagay ko yan dyan, no? Kasi para ma-imagine natin na when we say investing activity, merong bumabalik sa atin na much bigger pa yung amount ng money, ano. Parang in every year, nag-increase yung pera mo. Parang ano na lang, para mas madali ano. Kapag kunwari, boys, gano'n. Kapag nanliligaw kayo, anong ini-invest nyo sa babae? Di ba nag-invest kayo ng time, effort, love. Siyempre, andun. Kasama na din yung money, siyempre. But, alangan yung babaeng gagastos. Hindi, joke lang. Tapos, kapag nag-invest kayo sa nililigawan nyo, anong benefit ang makuha nyo doon or return of investment? Kapag nanligaw ka ba, maano mo na, ay okay lang hindi niya ako sagutin. Gano'n. Siyempre hindi, di ba? Ang inaasahan mong kapalit nung is yung mapapa-oo mo siya. So, yun yung parang return of investment mo. Next slide na po. So, when we say investing cash flows from investing activities, include making and collecting of loans, acquiring and disposing of investments in debt or equity securities, and obtaining and selling of property and equipment and other productive assets. So, sa first part, yung cash inflows and outflows, syempre pag inflows, may papasok na pera, and outflows, yun yung parang payments or disbursements, gano'n. So first, receipts from sale of property and equipment, and sa outflows naman, payments to acquire property and equipment. For example, tayo para mas maano sa realidad, kuwari, kayo, kasi tamad kayo hugas ng plato. Nag-acquire ka ng dishwasher. Alam niyo ba yun? Basta yung panghugas ng plato na siya na mismo. Parang equipment ganun sa bahay. Dishwasher. Nag-acquire ka nun, nag-invest ka doon. Anong babalik sa'yo? Siyempre, hindi ka na maghuhugas ng plato. Less pagod pa. So, pag nag-invest ka doon, ikaw naman yung ma-free yung yung time mo na inalat mo doon sa paghugas ng plato. So, may extra ka pang time for other activities. So, yun. Receipts of sale, property and equipment and payments to acquire. Second, receipts from sale of investments in debt or equities securities. So, when we say equity securities, yun yung kapag matatakal nyo pa to kasi sa corporations Equity securities, meron siyang returns in forms of dividend. Medyo matagal-tagal pa kayo doon, pero matatakal yan. And when we say debt securities, syempre, pag debt, ano yun, utang. Anong babalik sa'yo? Syempre, pag magpapautang ka, ba't ka magpapautang? Wala namang, pag magpapautang ka, may interest na babalik. Yung initial amount na pinautang mo, mas malaki yung babalik nun sa'yo. So, yun na yung sa inflows. And yung sa outflows naman, payments for debt and equity securities. Parang mas to sa corporation talaga eh. And the third one, receipts from collections on notes payable and sa outflows, payments to make loans to others. Generally in the form of notes receivable. So, ang mas example nito sa promissory note. Pag sinabi natin promissory note, may ano na ba yun? Written promise to receive money at a future date. Mas to sa high school ata eh. Kasi 'di ba kapag examination period na, kapag hindi nakabayad ang student, mag-ano siya ng promissory note sa registrar, ganon. So yung promissory note na yun, parang promise mo yun na eto next month magbabayad ako. Ganon. So yun na yung receipts from collections on notes receivable and sa outflows, payments to make loans to others, generally in the form of notes receivable. So kapag nag-invest ka, isipin natin lagi na may babalik na mas bigger amount or ano na ba? Basta yun, medyo kinakabahan ako. Okay na po. So next reporter will be Miss Erica Vides.
Thank you, Miss Mary Ann. So, good afternoon po sa ating lahat. So, I will discuss about the cash flow from financing activities. So, una, before that, what is finance? Anyone po? Or ano lang po, kung ano po yung naiisip natin kapag naririnig natin yung word na finance. Pwede po nating i-chat sa chat box or mag-unmute po. Kung ano lang po yung naiisip natin pag naririnig yung word na finance. Hello po, naririnig po ba? Ayun, provision po ng cash. So, tama naman po si Dan. So, finance, circulation of money, granting of credit, also making of investment, provision of cash, tapos obtaining of funds or capital. So, what is financing activities in cash flow statement? In the cash flow statement, financing activities refer to the flow of cash between a business and its owners and creditors. It focuses on how the business raises capital and pays back its investors. The activities include issuing and selling stock, paying cash dividends, and adding loans. So, dito sa finance activities, a positive number on the cash flow statement indicates that the business has received cash. This boosts its asset level. So yun nga, kapag nagkakaroon tayo ng positive number or cash inflow, meaning yung asset natin is nag-i-increase. On the other hand, a negative figure indicates the business has paid out capital, such as making a dividend payment to shareholders or paying off long-term debt. So yung financing activities, ito yung mga transactions involving long-term liabilities, owner's equity, and changes to short-term borrowings. Ito ding financing activities, nag-obtain din siya ng cash needed from investors and creditors to launch and sustain the business. In short, the cash flow from financing activities are the funds that the business took in or paid to finance its activities. So next slide po. So, yun nga, sabi ko kanina, cash flow from finance activities. Finance activities include obtaining resources from owners and creditors. So, gaya ng operating and investing, merong cash inflow and cash outflow. Also, sa finance activities, meron din po. So, cash inflow, gaya nga nasabi nila, may dumating, may na-receive, receipt. So, first, cash inflow, receipts from investment by owners. Second, receipts from issuance of notes payable. So, some examples of cash flow from financial activities na cash inflow. Pag cash inflow, tanda natin, positive yon. So, pag positive, i-add natin siya later sa pag may problem na po. Pag positive, add natin. So, aside from that, mga nakalagay dyan is meron pa po issuing bonds, sale of treasury stock, loan from a financial institution, and then cash from new stock issued. So, pag nakita natin yung mga item na yon, malalaman na natin na, ay, positive, cash inflow to. So, positive siya, i-add natin siya. So, dito naman tayo sa cash outflow, payments to owners in the form of withdrawals. Then second, payments to settle notes payable. So, yun nga, aside from that, meron din tayong repayment of existing loans, payment of cash dividends to stockholders, purchase of treasury stock, repurchase of existing stock, and redemption of bonds. Yung mga yun naman, negative, so meaning, i-deduct natin siya. So yan. The financing activities of a business provide insights into the business financial health and its goals. A positive cash flow for financing activities may show the business intentions of expansion and growth. So yon, kapag more receipts, cash inflow, nagkakaroon tayong positive amount and meaning nag-increase ang ating business assets. So, mas malaki tendency na mag-expand yung business natin and mas mag-grow. Negative cash flows from finance activities, on the other hand, can signal improving liquidity position of the business and also provides information about its dividend policy. Dito sa negative, it indicates that the business has paid out capital or nag-repurchase or nag-redeem. So, that's the end of financing activities. Next is problems to be discussed by Miss Daphne and Miss Francie.
So, thank you, Miss Aviles. So now let's move on to the sample problems. Problem 1. The following transactions pertain to the operations of Party Consultants, an events planning entity owned by Eleanor Tad. The entity had the following transactions during the month. First transaction is receive a 100,000 cash investment from the owner. Second, provided 400,000 services on account. Next is incurred 220,000 of operating expenses on account. Collect 320,000 cash from the accounts receivable and allowed a 30,000 cash withdrawal to the owner of the business. Paid 160,000 cash on accounts payable. Perform services for 30,000 cash. And lastly is paid 12,000 cash for the expenses. So the requirements are first is we need to classify each of these transactions as cash flow from operating activities, investing activities, or financing activities. Yung hindi naman transactions that do not affect the cash flow should be identified as NA. And second requirement is prepare a statement of cash flow. Next slide, please. Ay, ulit. Doon muna, balik mo muna, Francie. So, dito sa transaction 1, under siya ng activities. It's anyone can answer. Anyone po? Use the chat box na lang po pag nahihiya po kayo mag-unmute. So, anyone? So, wala. Ako na lang. From number 1, this transaction is belong to or under to financing activities because it is a cash investment. Under siya ng equity section or under shareholders equity. So, the second transaction, saan siya nabibilang? Anyone? So, ako na naman ulit. Ay, operating activities. Any answer? Bukod sa operating activities? Ay, investing activities. So, the answer for the transaction 2 is NA. For transaction 3, anyone? Operating activities. No, it's not operating activities. NA ulit kasi for the fourth transaction, collected 320,000 cash from accounts receivable. It is under operating activities. Kasi nakakollect siya ng cash. For the fifth transaction naman, under naman siya ng financing activities. Because of the cash withdrawal to the owner of the business. Under siya ng sa may shareholders equity. And yung pang-anim naman na transaction, yes, it is operating activities. Because it is paid on cash, on accounts payable. And for the seventh transaction naman, under pa rin siya ng operating activities. And for the last transaction is also operating activities din siya. Paid cash for the expenses. So, thank you sa pagsagot. So for the second requirement, ito yung answer, oh. Hindi ko na nalagay explanation. For the second requirements naman, yung pag-prepare ng statement of cash flow. So, na-identify na natin or na-classify na natin yung 8 transactions. If it is under operating activities, investing activities, or financing activities. So now, nag-prepare na. Here, we prepared statement of cash flow of Eleanor Tan. So under of cash flow from operating activities or collected cash from accounts receivable amounted to 320,000. Paid cash on accounts payable amounted to 160,000, which is negative because yun nga, nag-outflow siya. And perform services for cash amounted to 30,000. Siyempre, naka-receive tayo nun. Makaka-receive tayo ng cash nun. And paid cash for expenses, which is 12,000. It is also an outflow. So, the total of net cash provided or used in operating activities is 178,000. Dito, gagamit kayo ng cash provided by kapag yung nakuha yung parang total ng cash flow from operating activities or investing or financing, kapag positive ang lumabas, gagamit tayo ng provided cash, net cash provided by. Pero kapag yung nakuha nating total nun is negative naman, we use net cash use in. So now let's move on to the cash flow from investing activities. Walang transaction na naganap under ng investing activities. Kaya zero siya. Pero pwede naman na kahit na hindi na natin ilagay. Nilagay ko lang para maganda tingnan tsaka para mas malinaw. So, in cash flow from financing activities are received cash investment from the owner amounted to 180,000. Allowed cash withdrawal to the owner, which is negative 30,000. Kasi, di ba, withdrawal, from the word withdrawal, nilabas, parang outflow siya. So, the total net cash provided by or used in financing activities is 150,000. So, dito, provided by kasi siya positive. Same siya dun sa may operating activities. So, then, the net increase in cash is 328,000, which is yung nakuha nating total ng cash dun sa operating activities and investing activities. So, we don't have a cash balance at the beginning of the period. So, wala tayong parang idadagdag doon. So, the cash balance at the end of the period is amounted to 328,000. Next slide. So, problem 2. Here is the comparative balance sheet of Virtual Co. as of December 31. Under assets, liabilities, and equity, we have cash. Under assets, we have cash, accounts receivable, prepaid insurance, investments, planned assets, and accumulated depreciation for the year 2018 and 2017, and for the changes, whether it increases the cash or whether it increases or it decreases. So, the changes under the cash is we have decrease of 6,550 because we have a cash during in the year 2018 amounted to 66,700, while on the year 2017 we have 83,250,000. So it resulted to, for accounts receivable naman, we have in the year 2018 we have 55,400, while on the year 2017 we have 54,220. So it resulted to a positive. It meaning increase. It increase. For prepaid insurance naman, for the year 2018, we have 2,400, while on the year 2017, we have 3,600. So it decreases in the amounted to 1,200. So in plant assets naman, we have 356,000 in the year 2018, while on the 2017, we have 290,000. So it increased in the amounted to 66,000. For accumulated depreciation naman nila, 65,700 in the year 2018, while 36,700 in the year 2017, and it has increased amounted to 29,000. So, ipag-a-add lang natin yun. Ganon din yung step sa pagkuha dun sa may liabilities and equity. So, we have a total liabilities and equity of 40,430. Next slide, please. So, ito naman yung income statement ng Virtual Co for the year ended December 31, 2018. So, dito makikita natin kung paano nakuha yung net income na magagamit natin mamaya para doon sa paggawa natin ng statement of cash flow niya. So, here in income statement, we have the sales revenue, less the cost of goods sold is equal to gross profit. So, we have sales revenue amounted to 430,000, less cost of goods sold amounted to 289,000, and we got a gross profit amounted to 144,000. And then, syempre, ililess din natin dito yung, so, to get the operating income, we will deduct the operating expenses from the gross profit that we got kanina, na nakuha natin kanina. So, under na operating expenses natin, we have depreciation expense amounted to 29,000. Insurance expense amounted to 14,400. Other operating expense amounted to 57,000. So we have a total operating expense amounted to 100,600. Then we will now deduct it to the gross profit. And we got the operating income amounted to 43,400. And other revenue or expenses, i-add natin siya dun sa may operating income na nakuha natin. So, we have the gain on sale of land amounting to 17,500. Iisa lang yung natin, yung revenue or other revenue expense natin. So, iisa lang yung i-add natin dun sa may operating income natin, which is amounted to 17,500. So, the income before income tax na nakuha natin from adding the operating income from the other revenue is 60,900. And then, we will less the income tax expense naman na may amount na 18,270. And then, na 18,270. So, we have a net income amounted to 42,630. So, next slide po. So, ito yung additional information natin na magagamit natin mamaya para gumawa ng statement of cash flow. So, the following additional information is provided. Una is yung investment that originally cost 30,000 were sold for 47,500 cash. Second, investments were purchased for 50,000 cash. Plant assets were purchased for 66,000 cash. And cash dividends were declared and paid to shareholders in the amount of 8,000. So, the requirements or the directions of this problem is prepare the statement of cash flows using indirect method naman. Kasi kanina, gumamit na tayo ng direct method. Wherein dito sa may indirect method, magagamit na natin yung net income na compute natin kanina. Kasi dito, parang under indirect method, dito yung resulting dun sa non-cash transaction, while dun sa direct naman is magre-result siya sa cash transaction. Indirect method, prepare the statement of cash flow using indirect method for the year ended December 31, 2018. Next slide po, please. So, ito na nga yung statement of cash flow under indirect method of virtual group for the year ended December 31, 2018. So, cash flow from operating activities, we have net income, yung na-compute natin kanina na 42,630. And yung adjustment to reconcile net income to net cash flow from operating activities, ito yung depreciation, gain on sale of plant assets, accounts receivable which is na nag-decrease, prepaid insurance na nag-decrease also, and the accounts payable na nag-increase naman. So, depreciation amounted to 29,000, gain on sale amount of plant equipment amounted to 17,500, which is negative siya. And accounts receivable decrease amounted to 1,180. Prepaid insurance decrease amounted to 1,200, naka-positive. And accounts payable increase naman, which is 800. So, it has a total of 12,320. So, now we will add this to our net income na nakuha natin kanina na 42,600. So, we have a net cash flow from operating activities amounted to 54,950. So, dito naman tayo sa may cash flow from investing activities. We have proceeds from sale of investment, 47,500. Cost of investments purchase, which is 50,000 negative. Kasi outflow siya. Cost na, yun nga yung cost o na yung nagastos natin sa pag-purchase. And then yung cost of new plant assets natin, which is negative also, amounted to 66,000. So, we have a net cash flow used in investing activities, which is 68,500. And lastly, for the cash flow from financing activities, we have payment of notes payable, principal, amounted to 25,000 negative. Kasi nga, di ba, payment, nagbayad tayo. Issuance of common stock, 30,000, and payment of dividends also amounted to 8,000 negative. So, kasi nagbayad tayo ng dividends. So, the net cash flow used in financing activities is 3,000. So, the total cash flow increase or decrease is 16,500. And ayun nga, meron tayong cash balance na in the year 2017 kanina na 83,250. So, our cash balance now in the year 2018 is 66,700. So, the next remaining sample problem will be present to you by Miss Frenzy Claire de Guzman.
Hello, naririnig ba ako?
Yes, best.
Yes,
Thank
Beth.
you. So, sige, thank you. So, dito, use sa another sample problem natin. Use the following data to construct a statement of cash flows using the direct and indirect methods. So, same lang din sa ginawa kanina. So, dito, meron tayong mga accounts na meron siyang mga balances from beginning and ending. And ayan siya. Tapos dito, meron din tayong nakalagay dito na mga sales, goods, depreciation, mga ganun. Yung net income, computation ng net income na magagamit rin natin mamaya. And sabi dito, during 2000, nag-declare daw and paid ng dividends na 2,500. And during 2000 din, yung ABC companies nag-paid ng 46,000 in cash para mag-acquire ng fixed assets. At sinabi din dito na yung accounts payable was only used for inventory. No debt was retired during 2000. So, ito siya. Ito yung presentation ng cash flows using direct method and indirect method. So, first, dito muna tayo sa direct method cash flows from operations. Wait lang. So, ito siya. Nakikita niyo na ba yung sa screen ko? Unahin muna natin yung sa direct method, sa cash flows, sa operating muna tayo. So, ayan, makikita nyo yung sinabi kanina na kapag direct method siya, usually nag-start siya sa mga cash receipts and collections. Ganun, cash receipts collections. Tapos naman doon natin ililes yung mga naging payments natin or yung mga expenses natin. Ganun. So, kung makikita nyo dito, nakuha niya yung cash receipts from customers na 207,500. Ito. Yung sales dito na 200,000. Tapos in-add natin yung beginning na accounts receivable. Ito siya. 32,500. Tapos niles natin yung sa accounts receivable end. Niles yung accounts receivable end na 25,000. Kaya makukuha natin dyan yung 207,500 na amount na cash received from customers. And after nyan, pumunta naman tayo sa inventory. Di ba nasabi kanina na kapag sa operating, ang mga included lang doon is yung mga current assets and current liabilities. So, ayun, move on na tayo sa inventories. Kung paano ba nakuha tong negative 124. Dito sa problem, meron siyang inventory beginning na 34, which is ito, yung nilagay natin dito. And meron din siyang inventory end na 37,000. And kung mapapansin nyo, dito sa problem, meron tayong cost of goods sold na 123,000. So, meaning, itong 123, ito yung inventory, ito yung cost ng inventory na nabenta natin. So, dito sa inventory, sa T account, maglalagay tayo dito ng 123,000. Ito yung COGS, yun nga, yung price yung cost ng inventory na nabenta na. So, ipag-add natin siya, 123 plus 37. So, ibig sabihin, ang total dito sa 100, sa credit side ng inventory is 160. So, itong 160 na total, ililes natin yung 34 na beginning. Ito, yung 34 na beginning. So, 160 minus 34, makukuha natin yung pinurchase natin na inventory na 126. Ito yung naging purchases natin during the period. So, malinaw ba yun? Nag-gets, di ba? So, ang total din nito is 160. Ganyan. Ganyan siya. Ang ginawa natin, given sa problem yung ending tas beginning inventory. Given sa problem yung beginning tas ending inventory. Ano? Ulitin ko. Given sa problem yung ending amount tas beginning amount ng inventory. Ito yon yung 34 tas 37. Nilagay natin siya dito. Tapos, dun sa problem, merong cost of goods sold. Ito yung amount, ito yung cost ng inventory na nabenta, kaya nilagay natin siya dito. Tapos, para makuha natin kung ilan ba yung ito ay para makuha natin yung cash payments natin, yung sa purchases natin na yung cash payments made sa inventory, ito yon yung 126. Nakuha natin yun kasi 'di ba tinotal natin 'to. Tapos niless natin, nakuha natin 160. Tapos tapos niless natin yung beginning kaya nakuha natin tong purchases na 126. And sabi kasi sa problem, sabi dito sa problem 'di ba, yung accounts payable daw, yung accounts payable daw is ginamit for inventory for inventory, was used for inventory only. So meaning itong purchases dito, yung cost dito sa purchases is ililipat natin siya sa accounts payable. Ilalagay natin siya dito. Yan, andyan na siya. Kasi ang magiging entry kasi natin diyan, debit, purchases, yun yung inventory. Tapos magke-credit tayo na accounts payable. Kaya yun, nilagay natin yung 126 na amount dito sa accounts payable. After nun, syempre ito total ulit natin, 126 plus 16. 142 dito. Yun din, given din sa problem yung beginning amount and ending amount na accounts payable. Ito siya, yung 16, tapos yung 18. So, nakuha na natin yung amount na purchase natin. Nakuha na natin yung amount dito na purchase. Ngayon, ang parang hinahanap kasi natin dito yung payment natin, yung naging cash outflow natin that time. So, para makuha yon yung 142, yung 142,000, ililess natin yung 18, itong 18,000 na N. Kaya ang makukuha natin na is 124,000. Ito yung binayaran na natin mismo. Kaya siya nakalagay dito kasi nabawasan na yung parang nabawasan na yung accounts payable. Parang ganon. So, ito yung naging payment natin during that time. Kaya, yung 124 dito siya nanggaling. Cash paid for inventory. Malinaw ba yun? Nagets nyo ba? So, yun. I assume na-gets nyo naman na. So, punta naman na tayo dun sa cash paid for insurance naman. Sa cash paid for insurance na negative 9,000. Paano ba nakuha yung 9,000 dito? Tulad din nung, kasi kung mas mapapadali kasi siya pag familiar kayo dun sa T account na ginagamit. Ganon. So, ito nga, nakikita nyo, gumamit din ako ng T account dito. Dun sa prepaid insurance, given na doon yung amount ng ending, tapos beginning balance, which is yung 7,000, ito. Tapos yung ending na 5,000, ito din yun. Ang ginawa natin, kasi 'di ba yan, dito sa problem na may nakalagay insurance expense. Ito siya. So, itong 11,000 na insurance expense, ilalagay natin siya dito. 11,000 insurance expense. So, itong 11,000 na insurance expense, syempre pag-add natin to magiging 16. Total na 16,000 na. So, ang hinahanap natin ngayon, kung ilan ba yung binayaran natin nung time na yon sa insurance. So, yun nga, 16. Itong 16 na na-compute natin. I-less natin yung beginning. Kaya may 9,000 tayong makuha. Itong 9,000, ito din yung naging payment, cash paid natin for insurance. Ayan, ganyan siya. So, syempre magiging total din ito 16,000 balance siya. And after nun, nung sa insurance, punta naman tayo sa cash paid for wages. Ito. So, cash paid for wages, ganun din ulit yung gagawin natin, yung beginning balance and ending balance, ganon. Tapos, nung dito din sa problem, sinabi niya din na nagkaroon ulit tayo ng wage expense. Ito yung 50,000. So, itong 50,000, ilalagay natin siya dito. Kasi nga, expense siya. Kasi nga, expense siya. Ito yung wages expense. So, pag-total din natin siya, ito total din natin siya 57,000. So, itong 57,000, i-less ulit natin yung sa N na 54. So, ang magiging kalalabasan ng binayaran natin, ang cash paid natin for wages payable is 53,000. Ito na yung nakuha natin dito na cash paid for wages. Ito na yung cash paid. So, yun. Ganun natin nakuha yung mga expenses na niless natin dun sa cash received. Malinaw ba yun? Malinaw ba itong direct method sa operating ng malinaw ba yung direct method sa cash flow plan operations? Wala ba kayong tanong or clarification, gano'n? So, kung malinaw na, punta na ulit tayo dun sa mismong ito siya. So, ito na yung direct method. Na-explain na kung paano na-compute itong mga nasa cash flows from operations. So, yun nga, tulad ng nasabi kanina, kukunin natin yung cash received from customers, which is yung 207,500, and ililess na natin yung mga naging payments natin. Itong 124, 9,000, and 53,000. Kaya ang magiging cash flows from operations natin, 21,500. And after that, pupunta na tayo sa cash flow from investments. And itong cash flow from investments, nabanggit kanina, itong cash flow from investment, nabanggit siya doon sa problem. Ito, nabanggit siya doon sa problem. Ito siya, yung ABC paid 46,000 to acquire cash. Ito siya, to acquire cash. So, ibig sabihin, gumamit siya ng pera. So, ibig sabihin, magkakaroon tayo ng outflow sa cash. Kaya dito, nagkaroon siya ng negative 46,000. And kung mapapansin mo din, dito sa fixed assets na line, so bakit nga siya nilagay sa investment? Kasi nga, di ba, sa investment, ang nakalagay dun is yung mga non-current assets, yung mga long-term assets. So, itong fixed assets, nilagay natin siya dito. Kung mapapansin mo dito sa statement of cash flows, sa beginning niya, meron siyang 270,000 na amount. And sa ending niya, may 316 siyang amount. So, kapag niles natin yung beginning dun sa 217 na ending, magkakaroon siya ng malalaman mo na nagka-increase siya, 'di ba? So, malalaman mo na nag-acquire siya or bumili siya ng new fixed asset. So, ayan, wala na tayong ibang lagay sa investment, kaya cash paid for fixed assets lang yung andito sa direct method natin. Yan lang yung magiging amount for cash flow from investment. And after that, pupunta na tayo sa cash flows from financing activities. Sa financing naman, 'di ba, siya yung mga nasa non-current liability. Sa financing activities, andyan yung mga long-term liabilities and stockholders' equity. So, kung mapapansin nyo, dito din sa problem, nagsabi siya kanina ng paid of dividends ng 2.5. So, yun yung ilalagay natin. So, yun yung nakalagay dito na cash dividend payments na 2.5. Siyempre, negative siya kasi nga paid. So, nagkaroon tayo ng cash outflows. And yung 13,000 naman, proceeds from insurance of notes payable. Andito siya. Itong notes payable, kung mapapansin mo, nagkaroon siya ng increase. So, ibig sabihin, nagkaroon ka ng proceed. Nakuha natin yan kasi 173 na ending, niles natin yung 160 na beginning. Kaya may magkakaroon tayo ng 13,000 na amount na proceeds. And itong proceeds naman from insurance of stock, andito siya nakuha sa capital stock. Kung makikita nyo din, tumaas din yung yung amount niya. So, nagkaroon tayo ng proceeds. So, ganun din yung sa ginawa, yung 88 na beginning, nilas natin yung 84, kaya nakuha natin yung 4,000. And syempre, pag-add natin tong mga to, ang makukuha natin yung cash flow from financing activities na 14,500. And after nyan, itong talong amount from operations, fixed investments, and financing, ipag-add natin sila. So, yan yung makukuha nating net cash flow. Ito na. Yung cash flows, yung total ng cash flow mismo. Tapos, after nyan, i-add natin yung beginning balance na 14,000. Tapos, ang makukuha natin diyang ending balance na, ito, yung 4,000 na given din dito sa problem. So, masasabi mong tama yung ginawa mo sa cash flows mo kapag nakuha mo yung ending balance. Kapag itong ending balance dito and yung ending balance dito is magmamatch siya. Ganun lang. So, and after nyan, pumunta naman tayo sa indirect method. So, kung yung sa kanina, dito sa direct method, yung sa cash flow from operations, nag-start na agad tayo sa cash receipts from customer and nilas na natin yung mga payment. Dito naman sa indirect method, magi-start tayo sa net income. Ito, net income. Itong net income, nakuha natin siya dito sa problem, given na siya, yan. And after ng net income, i-adjust na natin siya by adding and deducting yung mga non-cash expenses, gano'n. Tapos yung mga account na hindi naman na wala namang involved na cash. So dito sa net income na 1,000, nakuha natin yan dito. And yung depreciation expense, in-add natin siya. Depreciation expense, ayan. In-add natin siya. Tapos sa yung accounts receivable naman, so bakit nga ba in-add yung depreciation expense? 'Di ba pag kasi mag-e-entry tayo ng depreciation expense, 'di ba ang entry natin, ang entry natin kapag debit depreciation expense and credit sa accumulated depreciation. Kung mapapansin mo, yung entry wala naman tayong binanggit dun na cash. So ibig sabihin, wala tayong naging cash outflow. Kaya i-add back natin siya dun sa net income. Gets yun? Tapos dito naman sa accounts receivable, meron tayong add na 7,500. Bakit nga ba add? Kasi dito, kung mapapansin mo, nagkaroon siya ng decrease. Nagkaroon siyang decrease. 'Di ba ang sinabi kanina, kapag yung current assets nagka-increase, i-deduct natin siya. Pero kapag yung current asset is nagka-decrease, i-add back natin siya. So yun, kaya yun nga, since may decrease tayo na accounts receivable dito na 7,500, i-add back natin siya dito sa net income na 7,500 na yun. Tapos yung sa prepaid insurance naman, same lang siya. Kung mapapansin nyo din dito sa problem, nagkaroon din siya ng decrease. From 7,000, naging 5,000 na lang siya. So, same, i-add back natin siya dun sa net income na 2,000. And sa inventory naman, dinidak na natin siya. Kasi dito, makikita nyo yung inventory, nagkaroon siya ng increase. 'Di ba kapag increase sa current asset, magiging subtract siya or deduct siya sa net income. So, ayan, nagkaroon tayo ng deduction na 3,000. And after nyan, punta naman na tayo sa current liab. Sa current liab naman, baliktad siya kapag nagkaroon, kasi kapag sa mga current asset, indirect relationship siya. So, meaning, kapag indirect relationship siya, so meaning, kapag nagkaroon current asset, pag nagkaroon ng current asset, so meaning, kapag nagka-increase daw sa current asset, reduction siya. Yan. Malinaw ba yun? Kaya siya tinawag na indirect relationship. So, pagdating naman sa, kailangan i-save ko lang. So, pagdating naman sa current liab naman, direct relationship siya. Bakit direct relationship? Kasi kapag nagkaroon ng increase, kapag nagkaroon ng increase, nagkaroon siya ng direct relationship siya kapag current liab. Kasi kapag nagkaroon ng increase, siya. Pero kung nagkaroon ng decrease, i-deduct natin siya. Unlike dun sa kanina, kabaliktaran siya ng current assets kanina. Kaya siya tinawag na direct relationship. Kasi pag nag-increase, decrease, deduct. So, ayun. So, dito, ako payable, nag-add tayo ng 1,000. Kasi nga, dito problem. tumaas yung accounts payable natin. Tumaas yung accounts payable natin. From 16, naging 18 na siya. So, may 2,000 tayo na increase. Yun yung i-add natin dito. And dito naman sa wages payable, bumaba yung wages payable natin. From 7, naging 4,000 na lang siya. So, ayan, kaya dito nakaroon siyang deduction. Tapos yun, i-compute natin to lahat, makakakuha tayo ng cash flows from operations na 21,500. And tulad din ng ginawa natin kanina dun sa direct method, process na siya pagdating sa investment. Tulad ng sabi kanina, nagkaroon tayo ng cash flow. And nagkaroon tayo ng cash dividend payment. Yun, nag-declare na savings ng dividend na sinabi ko sa 5. And nagkaroon din tayo ng proceeds from sales. Proceeds din sa institution. 18,000 na lang. And same procedure po, itong cash flows from operations. Itong cash flows from... Hello, naririnig na ba ako? Naririnig na ba ako ulit?
Opo. Naririnig na po.
Nagigets nyo?
Yes.
Nagigets na ba yung na-explain ko?
Opo, ate. Gets po.
Okay, so yon ulitin ko na lang. Yun nga, sa pag-indirect method, titignan mo yung increase, decrease, and yung mga non-cash transactions. Tapos, same procedure na sa direct method, yung cash paid for fixed assets, kukunin natin, ililas natin siya since nagbayad nga tayo ng cash, so may cash outflow tayo. And yun then yung sa cash dividend, sa financing naman, ganun din yung cash dividend payments na 2.5. Kasi na-mention sa problem na nagkaroon tayo ng declared and paid dividends na 2.5. And ganun din sa proceeds of issuance of note payable. Ayan, ito siya, nagkaroon tayo ng increase from 160,000 naging 173,000. And susunod, yung sa proceeds ng issuance of stock. Ganun din, yung kung mapapansin mo, yung capital stocks na kasi is nagkaroon ng increase from 84 naging 88 siya. So, tulad ng ginawa kanina sa direct method, itong talo yung cash flow from operations, tapos itong sa cash flow from investment, tapos itong cash flows from financing. Ipag-add nating talo yan. And syempre, ang makukuha din is yung net cash flows na negative 10,000. Tapos i-add natin yung beginning balance na 14,000. Ito yon. So tulad ng sinabi ko ulit kanina na masasabi mong tama yung naging ginawa mo dun sa cash flow kapag nag-match yung amount ng cash mo dito dun sa ending cash balance mo. Gets? Malinaw yun. So, ito. Yun, tignan nyo yung difference nilang dalawa. Ito, nag-start sa net income. Ito, nag-start na agad siya sa cash payment. Ano? Tapos, the rest sa investment, parehas na silang dalawa. Tapos, kahit tandaan nyo na kahit anong method yung gamitin nyo, mapa-direct or indirect method, yung yung amount niya sa cash flow from operations is same lang din. Ito. Same sila na nakuha na 21,500. Same lang din yung amount na makukuha mo. So ibig sabihin yung sa net cash flow mo is magiging same lang din. Gets? Malinaw 'yon. So ayun, yun na yung end ng problem na to. Wait lang, yung PowerPoint na. So, ito yon. So, sana na-gets nyo to. Wala ba kayong tanong about sa problem na 'to? Okay, so I assume wala naman ng tanong. So proceed na tayo dun sa another problem. Ito naman, indirect method to eh. So, state the effect on cash flow from operating activities. So sasabihin natin kung ilan yung naging increase and decrease. Ilan yung naging increase and decrease niya. Tapos sabihin natin kung add or deduct siya. So, sabi niya, net income for the current year was 92,150 and yung depreciation expense is 26,500. So, dito, sa first natin, yung accounts receivable, meron siyang beginning balance na 74,100 and nagkaroon siya ng ending na 81,250. So, meaning, nagkaroon siya ng increase na 700,000 7,150. Sorry, 7,150. So, 'di ba sinabi kanina na kapag sa current asset nagkaroon ng increase, magiging deduct siya. So, ayan, deduct siya dito. Tapos, yung sa inventories naman, current asset din, nagkaroon siya ng increase. Kung mapapansin nyo yan, tumaas from 81, naging 103 na lang, tumaas. So, ibig sabihin, may increase siya. May increase siya na 22,000. And same sa accounts receivable, kapag current assets nagkaroon ng increase, magiging deduct siya. So, yon, decrease din siya. And sa prepaid expenses naman, current assets din, from 7,600, bumaba siya ng 6,100. So, may decrease siya na 1,500. So, ibig sabihin, kapag nag-decrease yung current asset, magiging i-add natin siya, add siya. And dito naman sa accounts payable, mga current liabilities na. Sa accounts payable, ang beginning natin is 51,200 and nagkaroon tayo ng ending na 49,100. So, meaning nagkaroon tayo ng decrease na 1,800. And na-mention kanina na kapag nagkaroon sa current liability, ibig sabihin, deduction siya. So, deduct. Ayan siya, deduct. And next is yung salaries payable na from 5,200, nagkaroon siya ng increase na 1,300. Sabihin din, kapag sa current liability, nagkaroon ng increase, magiging add siya. So, yan. Ito yung So, ngayon, try natin siyang gawahan ng cash flows. Diba? Rinig na ba? Hello. Hello, naririnig na ako ulit. Hello.
Opo, naririnig lang po.
Okay, thank you. Pasensya na, nagagalaw ating earphones ko. Nag-get nyo to. Basta ang tandaan nyo, yung sinabi kanina, the indirect relationship. Sa current asset. Kapag nagkaroon ng so ito ang receivable, inventories, may increase siya sa current asset. Nag-increase yung dalawa sa deduct siya. Prepaid expense, nagkaroon siya na so i-add natin siya. And kapag sa current liability, accounts payable, salary payable, since current liability sila, direct relationship, kapag nagkaroon ng decrease, yes. So, ayun. After nyan, try natin siya ilagay sa top. Indirect method siya. Diba kapag indirect method, mag-search na siya lang. I-adjust na natin siya by adding and non-cash items. So net income, mag-start tayo sa net income na 92,150. And yung naman, sa prepaid expenses, i-add back natin siya. I-add natin siya sa net income. And decrease account payable.
Bes, ano, hindi masyadong marinig.
Narinig na ba ako? Yan, malakas na.
Oo, pero parang may gas-gas. Ganun.
Hindi ko kasing, pero okay lang naman.
Oo.
Sige, tapusin ko na lang din to. Feeling ko yung earphones ko kasing may sira. Sige, salamat. So, ayun nga, net income, 92,000. Tapos i-add natin depreciation. Tapos, yung increase sa current assets is i-deduct natin siya. And yung decrease sa current assets, i-add natin siya. And itong dalawa na current liab, na direct relationship, since nagkaroon ng decrease sa accounts payable, i-deduct din natin siya. And nagkaroon sa salaries payable, so i-add natin siya. So, yan, makukuha natin yung, tapos i-compute natin to lahat. Makukuha natin yung net cash flows from operating activities na 90,500. So, ayan. Ito yung sinasabi ko. Kapag nagkaroon ng increase sa current asset, deduct. Kapag nagkaroon ng decrease sa current asset, add. So, indirect relationship siya. And sa liabilities naman, current liab, direct relationship siya. So, kapag nagkaroon ng increase, add siya. And kapag nagkaroon ng decrease, deduct siya. Malinaw yon. Ay, sorry. So, yun. Tapos na yung sa may part ko. Wala ba kayong tanong sa na-explain ko or yung sa mga nauna pa, gano'n? Bago tayo mag-proceed dun sa another part ng sample plan. Kung may mga hindi ba kayo na-gets, gano'n? Okay
Wala
naman
naman po,
na.
ate. Opo.
Gets nyo na lahat, malinaw naman na sa inyo.
Yes po.
Okay, thank you. So, yun. Tapos na ako. For the next is Natalie. Thank
So,
you.
ayan. So, yun. Since, wala na kayong tanong, meron tayong pa-activity lang. Isasagot lang i-categorize lang natin siya kung operating, investing, or financing. So, let's start na. So, since pipito lang tayo dito, tag-isa tayo. So, unahan ko na lang. So, sa letter A, cash received from the sale of building. So, ang una kong titignan dyan is kung ano yung affected na Dito sa transaction na to is sale of building siya. So, ibig sabihin, non-current assets. So, kapag non-current assets, ibig sabihin sa investing siya. Kaya, ang lalagay natin dyan is IA or investing activities. So, sa next, sinong gusto first years muna. Since sinong gusto magsagot sa next? Simple lang naman to.
Ano po siguro? Operating po ba? Yan. Hindi.
Operate. Paano mo nasabing operating activities siya?
Current account po kasi yung salaries payable. Tapos sabi niya cash paid.
For salaries. Yes, tama siya, operating activities. So, ilalagay natin is OA. And sa letter C naman, si Miss Zamora.
Cash received for interest on a note receivable.
Ano muna, i-classify muna natin yung note receivable. So, ang note receivable is asset, di ba?
Yes po.
Current or non-current?
Non-current.
Yung notes receivable is
Ay, hindi ka.
Cur-
Current po siya.
current. Yeah. Yun, current. Tama. Ayun, tama. Current siya. So, kapag current assets, anong activity siya sa cash flow? May effect.
Hindi ko sure, ate.
Ano lang, kung ano lang yung mo, palagay mo yun.
I think sa may FA siya. Interest does not receivable eh.
Ang natin siya is sa note receivable. So, ibig sabihin kapag current assets is sa operating siya. Pero may naman siya dun sa may interest. Pero kasi itong transaction na to is, talaga siya sa notes receivable. Kaya,
So parang ang
sa
main niya po is note receivable kaya under siya ng operating po.
Oo.
Sige po.
Yes. So, sa letter D, sinong sa mga 40 years, sino mo gusto sumagot dyan?
Try ko na lang.
Years. Yes, ano sa letter D? Cash paid
Try
to acquire a new truck.
Cash paid to acquire a new truck. I guess, investing siya sa cash outflow, yung for property and equipment. Doon ba siya?
Yes,
Acquire a new truck.
tama.
So, investing activity.
Yeah. Dahil sa non-current asset yung new truck. Kaya investing activities. So, sa letter E naman, next letter E. Okay, sige. Ako na muna sa letter E. Since ang sabi niya dito is cash loan out to a customer in the form of a long-term note. So, ibig sabihin dyan, ang natin dyan is yung long-term note. Nag-loan out siya in the form of long-term note. So, ang long-term note is classified siya as current assets. So, ibig sabihin kapag non-current assets is maano siya sa investing activities. Kasi non-current assets. So, yun. Sa letter F. Sa letter F, Miss Frenzy. Hello, Frenzy.
So, sa letter F, cash received for services rendered. So, yun nga, for service rendered. So, ibig sabihin, sa operating siya. Bakit? Kasi nga 'di ba, ang sinabi natin sa operating, andun yung mga normal operations niya. So, ibig sabihin, service, nag-render mismo ng service si company, tapos doon, naka-receive siya ng cash. So, I believe operating activity siya. So,
Yan.
yun.
So, well explained. So, mukhang kinakabahan po yung ating mga fourth years dahil nagulat sila.
Gulat na gulat kami ah. Wala po siyang
Okay
sinabi
lang yan.
ng papa.
Mas maganda na yung ganyan. sorry. Okay, so sa next letter tayo. Sa letter G. So, Miss Mary Ann or Miss Daphne muna.
So, Marian,
Ayan, si Miss Mary Ann daw muna. Nagtuturoan na po sila. Okay, so ayun. Ako na muna since, ano. So, letter G is cash paid for interest. So, itong cash letter G is sa operating activities. Kasi kapag mag-entry tayo, di ba? Kapag mag-entry tayo ng pagbayad ng interest, is ang magiging entry natin is interest expense, debit interest expense, and credit natin is cash. Kaya meron tayong expenses, and yung mga expenses is sa income statements siya. So, ano siya sa affected yung operating activities. So, next letter. It's letter H.
ako na lang sa H.
Okay. Yes, Miss Daphne.
Cash paid for insurance on equipment. Under siya ng operating activities. Kasi di ba, pag magre-record tayo, yung entry na natin doon is insurance ba?
Expense.
Insurance expense. Then, magki-credit tayo doon ng prepaid insurance, which is yung prepaid insurance, under siya ng current asset. Yung current asset, di ba, naka-classify siya doon sa may operating expense. Yun. Operating
Ayun.
activities pala, sorry.
Yes, operating activities. Dahil meron siyang insurance expense and cash. So, sa letter I, so since si Miss Mary na lang pero sa J siya. Ako na lang dito. Cash received from a debtor representing payments of principal. So, sabi niya dyan is cash received from a debtor. Di ba kapag debtor, ibig sabihin, di ba kapag sa debt is sa investing activities. Ano ba investing operating? Sorry na. Investing activities. So, next is sa letter J. Miss Marian.
Ano po, investing activities. Kasi non-current
Yes.
siya.
Yan. Investing activities. So, since okay na tayo sa pagka-classify or pag-categorize ng operating, investing, or financing, let's move na tayo sa next activity. Bale, last naman na to. So, don't you worry. Next is problems. Problem pala, isa lang. Imara and Business Solutions had a profit of 300,000. During the year, the entity had depreciation expense of 70,000 pesos. Accounts receivable increased by 110,000 pesos and accounts payable increase by 50,000 pesos. The entity started operations in 2018 and the foregoing are the entity's only current assets and liabilities. Required, determine the net cash flows from operating activities using the indirect method. So since indirect method yan, ang una nating ilalagay is yung profit and magkakaroon tayo ng mga non-cash or yung mga non-cash transactions. Parang mga expenses, ganun. So, I'll give you mga 5 minutes siguro to solve. And you can chat your answers in the chat box. And pala, may gusto lang kaming ihabol dun sa problem kanina. Miss Frenzy, pwede bang pakibalik sa problem kanina? Ayan, yung sa number 2 and number 3 na transaction. So, yung sa number 2 is provided for Ayan. Provided 400,000 services on account. NA siya yung sagot dahil on account siya, wala siyang cash involved. Kasi di ba kapag i-entry natin tong services on account, debit natin is only one po.
Accounts receivable po, debit.
Ayun, accounts receivable. And credit natin is
Earned service revenue.
yan. Service revenue. So wala siyang na-receive na cash or wala siyang cash inflow or outflow. Kaya NA po yan. And sa number 3 naman, incurred 220,000 pesos of operating expenses on account. So, on account din siya, ibig sabihin, no cash involved. Ang magiging entry natin dyan is operating expenses sa debit and sa credit natin is accounts payable. So, ayun lang yung gusto namin i-clarify. Since ay baka kasi hindi nyo siya nabasa sa may chat box. So, may sagot na ba tayo sa problem? So, ayan, sagutan na natin. Next slide for the answer. Ayan. So, ang sagot dun is 340,000 pesos. So, paano nga ba nakuha yung 340,000 pesos? Meron tayong profit na first is meron tayong profit na 330,000 pesos. And then next is ibabawas na natin yung mga adjustments. Bawas or dagdag yung mga adjustments. So sa adjustments, meron tayong depreciation expense na 70,000. And meron tayong increase in accounts receivable na 110,000 pesos. And i-less natin yun. And i-add natin yung decrease in accounts payable na 50,000 pesos. Kaya magkakaroon tayo ng net cash flow provided by operating activities na 340,000 pesos. So, next slide. Ayun, tapos na tayo sa problems. ano na lang, para madalian kayo sa pag identify kung operating, investing, or financing siya. Ayan, meron tayo dyan. Kapag operating activities, tandaan lang natin na ito yung accounts from income statements, current assets, and current liabilities. And kapag investing activities naman, non-current assets. And sa financing activities, ito yung sa non-current liabilities and sa equity. So, ayun. That ends our discussion for today. Thank you for listening and for your time. And see you sa next na tutorial.
Thank you po. Thank you po. Pwede na po mag-leave po or mag